everybody, it's Sarah Paikai here with Jennifer Kim, answering all of your questions about Unicorn Team, and we are going to be talking about a very fun topic today. I have it written here on my card so I don't forget, because that's how important it is. We're looking at the 4 stages that every business goes through to scale. Let's dive in. Okay, so Jen, we have 4 stages of business that you talk about: forming, storming, norming, and performing. But I wanted to start by asking, what really inspired you to put shape around these stages of business, and why do you think it's important for people to understand it?
Well, you know, this concept is not something I necessarily made up myself. I learned it when I was in the corporate world for all those years. And when I jumped off of the corporate world into becoming unemployable and becoming my own business owner, I realized that a lot of what the structures inside of corporate that I actually appreciated, that weren't red tape and annoying, were very helpful in assessing, you know, how to become successful for my own small business and then ultimately helping others. And so this idea of forming, storming, norming, and performing the stages of business is actually, it was coined in 1965. And you're going to hear like a lot of things I bring forward, like even when we talk about archetypes and whatnot, these are not new concepts, but it proves that it gives shape, to use your words, around how to really look at what we're up to and how we can best succeed based on tried and true things that have actually worked in the past.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love that. Don't fix what's not broken, right?
100%.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to read the 4 different stages of the business and kind of how we define each stage. And then I would love for you to give an example of what a brand might look like practically in each of those stages, so that someone watching this might be able to identify, hey, that's me, or I feel like that's kind of where I'm at, and really looking at what identifies them and makes them who they are. So in stage 1, we say that it's a startup stage. You have a little capital and a whole lot of courage. So is this just like someone who's brand new to business? Could it be anybody?
Well, you may not even have courage yet, but you're trying to gain courage through taking tiny actions. And usually in this stage, there's a lot more thinking than there is doing. And that's not necessarily something we should judge. I think we judge it a lot, that we, in the forming stage, you know, we should be completely in action. And what a successful business does in the forming stage is actually get clarity around, who am I? What am I here to do? Who am I here to help? What skills, knowledge, gifts, talents do I have, or my products have, that can support other people? Because if it can't support other people, you can't get paid for it. And I think in the forming stage, you know, it's about being willing to test out those initial hypotheses, those initial ideas, those initial creative birthing that you're doing, and see what sticks. Like the forming stage is about testing what's going to stick. And so to answer your question around like, can anyone do it? The truth is anyone can do it.
Even if they have, like, say, a side hustle, they're not like they might not consider themselves like a solopreneur or a true entrepreneur or whatever. I think those phrases are BS, but you know what I mean? Like, even if it's just a part-time thing that you're ideating on, can you still be in stage 1?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in fact, as I said, I borrowed this concept from my corporate career. So in corporate, teams have forming, storming, norming, and performing phases of their own maturity together, right? And then in entrepreneurship, and that includes side hustles, because side hustles like part-time entrepreneurship, right? It's the same idea. It's like you're in these stages. So absolutely, anybody, it's actually career agnostic, if you will. And what I mean by that is, like, whether you're in corporate, you're in between corporate and entrepreneurship, or you're in entrepreneurship, it will apply.
Awesome. I see a lot of times, to your point, that there are people trying to rush through that ideation phase here. They feel so much pressure, like, I shouldn't be confused, and I don't know why I have so many ideas, and I should have clarity. And there's like all of this self-imposed pressure that they're putting on themselves, which I think actually hurts their confidence building.
Totally. That's that courage part, right? Because we're expecting that we go from idea to perfect execution.
Yes.
The minute we've decided to make a big leap specifically into whether it's a side hustle or a running your business full time, or even frankly moving up the corporate ladder. If you are thinking, okay, yeah, like who in the corporate world have you ever seen go from intern to CEO of the company? Like, show me someone. I want to know if they are a mega outlier, and therefore we should not be planning our lives around that idea anyway.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. So you can't go from intern, which is really like the forming stage of your business, to CEO. You're not even a CEO, by the way, in the forming stage. I want to make that point very clear. You want to start thinking like a CEO, but you're actually not a CEO yet because you don't even have a product necessarily that's working yet in the forming stage. But it is the seed, and it tests out your fortitude, your resilience, your ability to be curious still instead of so static and hard pressed. There's that stage is a stage that it's so easy to judge yourself, as you said, but it actually should be a non-judgment phase and really focus on some very clear goals, tiny goals that you want to achieve.
Yes.
Like, hey, I want to ask some people, I have this idea. Would people pay for it? Are people actually interested in it? Those are the things that you're testing in the forming stage. You're getting real feedback by putting yourself out there that says, yeah, this is worth pursuing, right? Because not everything is worth pursuing.
Amen to that.
Most
Very
things actually
true.
aren't worth pursuing.
That's a gem right there. It's like we just gave you all the answers. So that takes us to stage 2, which is storming. And in this stage, people have found an MVP, so a minimum viable product, which I'll ask you to explain more about in just a bit. And they're looking to take it to at least 6 figures in profit. So first off, what's an MVP? What's a minimum viable product? And then tell us more about this stage in particular. How do you really take it to that next phase?
So this next stage is the part where you think stage 1, forming, was uncomfortable. The storming part, in my experience, is the part that's the most uncomfortable. And it's where, frankly, unfortunately, many entrepreneurs, side hustlers, or even people pursuing more in the career world, they stop because there's a lot of tension in this phase, but it's actually good tension. There is such thing as good tension. There's actually such thing as good stress. And if you know you're in the storming phase, it's because, remember in the forming stage, I said you're testing out the clarity of the idea you have, whether people would actually pay for it. Maybe you've offered it in a beta type of way, right? Or a pilot kind of way. And now you've done that enough, 3 times is usually what we say. If you've been able to sell a product successfully, not just to one person, but to a few people, typically you are now qualified to call it a minimum viable product, or MVP. And that just simply means that this is a product that you can hang your hat on for the next goals that you have. You can grow that product idea with confidence because at least you know people have actually given you money for it, not just given you compliments. Okay, this is the forming stage. You're going to get a lot of compliments because people are nice, but it really comes down to, will they pay you for it, right? And so the MVP is a paid for product or service that enough people have said, I will buy this, and you can see that there's a big enough market that would buy more of it if they knew about you.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I've heard other terms used in the internet streets, like they say an irresistible offer, or like a flagship offer. Is this similar? Is the MVP sort of your vernacular for this?
It's similar to an irresistible offer, and it can end up being your thing. So this is the thing. In the storming phase, what's cool is that could end up being the thing that you're known for mainly, okay? But maybe not. Maybe it's just your first good hit.
Yeah.
And it gives you the confidence to realize, hey, actually, this part of that MVP is the thing that I'm the best at, that actually I'd want to carve out and try. And you can do that in the storming phase around the orbit of your MVP, right? Your MVP is kind of now the sun. And now you can play with, what planets do I want to try out to even use as potentially lead magnets, or other ways you can support people understanding what the product is. So yeah, it's definitely, it's an offer, and it's usually your first best offer, but it might not be your offer forever.
That's a good point. I think there's a lot of people that I often see, they don't want to go from stage 1 to stage 2 because it's so hard for them to pick one offer to test all the way through, right? They're like, I want to help my whole market, everyone with everything. And we know, which if you've been on our campus long enough, we know that means you're not really helping anyone with anything. That's the hard truth right there. Ouch. But they want to help everyone with everything. So it's like every single month is a different idea of an offer that they may or may not fully invite people to, but they're just skipping from this step to next, which keeps you always in ideation, right? So in that forming stage versus getting up to stage 2.
And that's also why it's called storming, because you have a lot of inner conflict. Because if you're a creative person, right, you want to create more, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, we're not actually judging the creative process itself, but there's a difference between being creative and being a business person. And you have to wear both hats if you want to be a successful CEO. They actually are two different roles inside of you, being creative and also being the CEO of your company. And in the storming phase, you'll find that those two characters inside of you will start to beef a little bit, right? They're like, she's like, work's not starting to feel fun anymore because we're just focusing on one thing. And, I want to do all these things. And then your CEO's like, yeah, but every time we start something new, we have to press the reset button. Because technically when you start something new, you bump yourself back to the forming stage.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
So it is actually, you are stepping back. And again, it's not a negative thing. I want you to have an awareness as you're listening to us. Because I think when you're aware, you'll start to decide whether you want that kind of extra tension. Some of you can handle that extra tension. That's not my ministry. I don't like that kind of anymore. In the beginning, though, back in the day when I was in the forming and storming phase, I was no different than the people that we've just described.
Right.
But I had to decide one day, do I actually want to move to step 3, which is norming? So, and what would it take for me to want that? And so we can talk about that next. But
yeah. So then stage 3 is norming. So now you have a minimum viable product, and maybe you're ideating around 2 to 3 more supporting product lines that, like, is, for example, if you have a consulting business that's doing really well, maybe now you're thinking, oh, the things that I teach with my one-on-one clients, could I make a mini course around it? Or maybe I want to write a book about some of my frameworks. So I want to hold a quarterly workshop that kind of leads in. So you have 2 or 3 more supporting product lines that work together, and collectively it helps to lift your business to 7 figures plus in revenue with a healthy profit margin. I love this stage. It's very delicious.
Norming is a great stage.
It's really nice.
And if you graduated to norming and you didn't get stuck in that whirlpool that I just mentioned earlier, and you wore your CEO hat, this is when you can call yourself a CEO. Is when you've allowed your creative or your creatrix inside of you and your CEO become understanding partners, around, look, we need to find a way to still honor your creativity, because most of you listening, if you're a founder of some type, you're what I call a visionizer, right? And a visionizer is someone who can see ideas before they even happen. And that's why you're so full of these ideas and you don't want to get stuck or bored. In fact, we get bored very easily. So the norming phase is, and I'm going to say this, you need to hear me, it's where you start making really boring money. Okay? And boring money is fucking awesome. Okay?
It is.
It's really awesome, because now you're at a place where you have more probability and predictability in what you're going to earn. And you realize, I'm starting to get bored because it's boring, right? So you start to ask yourself, or you should be asking yourself, and I did use the word should, okay? At this stage, who do you really need on your team to help you be the visionizer, be the creatrix, so that you don't lose it all? All this hard work you earned, because trust and believe it, friend, you earned it. If you got through the forming and norming stage, forming and storming phase, and now you're at norming, congratulations.
Yes.
Because it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
But hopefully by sharing this it's valuable to you to understand where you actually are and see the possibilities of what you could do next. And so anyway, I just wanted to say that in this phase, this boring money, you start to go, as a CEO, what do I need to do next? I need to hire permanent team members, like more like W-2 people, right? In forming and storming, you're going to use a lot of contractors. You're going to use a lot of part-time help because that's what you can afford, right? But by the time you get to norming, if you don't have at least a couple full-time people, I think you're probably still working way too hard on things that you're not qualified at. Okay, you don't have to be the strategy and operations person for your company as much as you were absolutely in the first two phases. So, enjoy that boring money and start to build a team around you.
Love that. Okay, so that takes us to stage 4, performing. And now you have predictable 7 figures that are happening on a regular basis, a healthy profit margin in your company, and your company is now ready to scale or even sell it if you want to. I know this is not generally where the majority of our viewers are landing, but will you speak a little bit to that? Because I think there's this idea to what you said earlier, we think, we'll go from stage 1 to stage 4. That's going to happen in like 6 to 9 months. It's going to be amazing, right? So kind of like this is a great promised land. I guess it comes with its own pros and cons, I'm sure. But tell us more about this stage 4.
Okay, so first let's talk about the stage and then let's talk about the psychology, okay? Because stage 4 in performing, this is the apex of what we all see out there that we desire to be. And by the way, it's absolutely possible to be in the performing stage. But between the norming and performing stage, the biggest hinge or lever that you can pull is your leadership. You have to be a leader throughout the whole thing, but this is the area where you really go, hey, this thing that we earned as a team making amazing and making very valuable to the market, we are now committed to positioning it to scale without our involvement anymore. It doesn't need a lot of creatrix energy. It doesn't need that. It needs traffic, it needs awareness, it needs potentially a partner or somebody to acquire it, aka sell it. And most of us look at performing companies, small or large, as like, again, the goal. You can be a very successful company at the norming phase. And you will only know what's enough if you get honest with yourself as a leader, what is enough for you. And so in the performing stage, it's a lot of things. It's you perhaps moving from owner to more of an investor mindset, like you're investing in your company, perhaps in other ideas, collaborating more, and focusing more on like the future opportunities and future pacing of whatever brand and or business you've built. But really, the norming and the performing phases, the lines can be a little blurred, but usually the way I like to define them specifically is it gets exciting again in the performing phase.
Okay.
Because you have options.
Yes.
In the norming phase, you have options because you've earned your way there, but you're still feeling that, what's it going to take to be more? Now, let's talk about the psychology next, which is when you mentioned, what's being taught is I need to get to stage 4 fast. And the truth is that's bullshit. You can't get to stage 4 fast unless you're extremely lucky. And I don't know about y'all, but I remember I heard this quote that like, actually it wasn't a quote, it happened to me. I was 21 years old, I was sitting at my first blackjack table in Las Vegas, and I asked the dealer, it's my first time, 21, I get to blackjack, and he's looking at me, he's like, cool. And then he says to me, I said, what is like the secret to winning on the tables, right? And he's like, the secret is the moment you sit down, you should leave. And the point I'm making about that is in the norming phase, it's like exciting that you're actually now grown up enough in your business to make bigger risks.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you're going to go to the blackjack table of your business and think you should throw some things around. And maybe you should. I'm not saying you should. Everyone's different. But honestly, that boring money, you want it to grow.
Yeah.
That's the key. You want it to grow. You want to invest that money so that you can invest more ideas when you get to the performing phase or stage. So
a lot of discipline then too, of not trying to rush ahead too quickly, but also not to put yourself back in that, I miss the days when it was just all new and iterative and exciting and all of those things that we do to ourselves in our minds.
Here's the marketing lesson. So I want you to hear me from a marketing standpoint and from a business standpoint, okay? Marketing will teach you that the first stage and the last stage are the stages to market to. So therefore, that's what's making you think I can jump from 1 to 4 in a short period of time. Because I think you're catching on, I hope if you're still with us right now, that the storming and the norming phase don't feel as sexy, right? But they are the most critical, and you should be damn proud if you're in those stages, okay? Versus, that's the marketing side of it. I need you, if you're watching this and you really want to be successful, you need to think like a business owner, not just a marketer, okay? And they are two different skill sets, right? The CEO, the CEO in training is thinking about how can I get good at the norming and storming phases, storming and norming phases, because they understand that, oh, in order to get to the performing stage, I need to go through that journey. And a lot of it is not as fun because guess what, guys? We got to work with other humans. And humans, sometimes we're not easy to deal with, right? And it's not just clients. It's literally our team. And the people that we're trying to enroll in the bigger vision that we have.
Correct.
And I think employee turnover in a small business is a lot of what gets in the way. And then you feel like, oh, I suck as a leader. And the truth is you probably do. Because, you probably didn't get those training skills.
Yeah.
And that's why investing in that kind of mentorship, advisory, coaching, getting systems that have worked for other people your size, it's critical.
100%. That's what they say if you watch any business video on how to be successful for people that know what they're talking about. And people who have been successful, they talk about their mentors and their coaches and the team and the people that have supported them through this, for sure.
And I want to say one more thing about unicorn team. So you're probably like, why unicorn team, right? Well, because what's interesting is most people who are called visionary or visionizers are thought of as unicorns. Oh, that person is super special. They're not like anybody else. And of course, we like to think we're total unicorns. And frankly, I think we are. But what you're not realizing, I think, and I think that what's missing in the conversation is that the other people that make that visionizer a unicorn are unicorns too. And we're searching for our unicorns. We're looking for our stables, y'all. Like we're looking for the place where we are romping around with our white manes and like frolicking. You know what I'm saying?
With all the glitter and rainbows.
All the glitter and rainbows. And I think that that's why it's called unicorn team, because I want you to hear that you can actually find the others who will believe in your mission if you can be thoughtful in the stages that you're in. Right? And that's what I'm excited about. And that's why I'm writing a book on it. And that's why we're teaching it now and why it's so important, because honestly, we're even doing this series because what we want you to know is too many people are failing because they don't understand this.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the biggest problem out here, is that they're failing or they're feeling like a failure. So they're quitting or they're actually terrorizing their teams, okay? Or their teams are being passive aggressive and there's toxicity and there's, and that has to do, you think that, well, what does that have to do with my brand? What does that have to do? People understand, okay, that has something to do with business, but it actually has a lot to do with your brand, because your brand is a reflection of the people who run the joint. Okay, so that's why we call it unicorn team, and that's why these stages and understanding it is really important to being successful at it.
Truth. I hope that you guys got a lot of great information out of this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with someone that you know needs this, and of course, leave your own questions in the comments below. That's how we actually source all the material for these videos. And we have a whole playlist that you can check out that talks about the unicorn team and a whole playlist here that's going to be talking about the stages of the unicorn team. So be sure to binge watch that when you have some space and time to do so, because it gives great insight that helps you move forward very quickly. Until next time, see you later.